Yeah.
Okay, so this is an existing two-bedroom dwelling. We performed soil testing back in May, and it was very wet, so we were not able to perform a percolation test. So one of the variances that we are asking is to use the sieve analysis method to size the system in lieu of performing a percolation test. There is no increase in flow. There's no increase in size to the dwelling. It's simply a repair. So we are requesting that. We're also requesting some setback variances. Everything on the site is pretty tight. The existing sewer line coming out of the house is there.
And there's a deck there?
Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to put put it anywhere else because the basement is finished.
Okay.
So we have to hold that existing building sewer. So we're going to put in a two-compartment tank using the first compartment as a septic tank, the second compartment as a pump chamber, pumping it up to the field. As you can see, the field is a little funky shaped. I needed to use every square inch of that area back there. So it's a pressure distribution bed, which is kind of a tough design to do. It's easy to put in. It's just a kind of a pain to design. So the variances that we are looking for is we have a tank to cellar variance right here for 5.1 feet instead of 10 feet. We also have cellar wall setback for the leaching system. So instead of 20 feet, it's 19.1 feet. Then we also have the groundwater separation offset variance from 4 feet to 3 feet. I mentioned the percolation variance. And for the local variances, we are asking to use a two-compartment tank. But your regulations require a two-compartment tank to be used as a two-compartment tank. It's only a two-bedroom system. I'm asking to use the two-compartment tank as a single-compartment septic tank and a single-compartment pump chamber that are just combined into one unit. But again, the flows are so small from the dwelling that it's not really warranted. Yeah. And the walls, the wall variance is required for this design. And I think that the highest point of the wall is 3 feet tall, and that's going to be in the back. So everything kind of slopes down that way.
Before we go on, I'm remiss, I should introduce Jen Rada. She's our newest board member. For the time being, she's going to be sitting out any discussions on septic, but she'll be involved in others while we check into some things. So does anybody have any questions?
So, the pool is awfully close, is that an above ground pool?
It's above ground.
Okay,
Yes.
and we don't have any
What is it, 10 feet?
regulations on distance, because it's an above
What do you
ground?
got, 10 feet?
There would be 10 feet to the actual system. Yes.
Right, you're right. Do we have any butters who have questions? I should have. No.
What's the address on the property?
Was it?
Seven Christina Drive.
Christina. No butters? Okay. I'll read Jim's comments. He dropped them by my house. The office has reviewed plans for the proposed replacement system for this site. The existing system is in failure. The site conditions are very restrictive. High seasonal water table, high perk rate, limited lot area. The proposed replacement system requires a number of local upgrade approval, that's how we wrote it, and variances to the Littleton Board of Health regulations. Without the approval of the request, the tight tank might be the only other option. I don't have a problem with the request. The new leaching field will be 3 feet above the groundwater, not in it, and the area is served by town water. I don't have a problem. Done?
No.
Okay. So we have a number of variances requested. Do we have a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve, where are we at? The plans dated May 23rd for 7 Christina Road for the following variance requests.
Two lists of them there, you get Title V and the local.
So yeah,
Title
it's
V there.
Title V, the Title V variance request, 24051B request cellar wall setback reduction of 20 foot to a 19 for the leach field facility, and then similarly a cellar wall setback reduction of the required 10 foot to 5 foot for septic tank, for the septic tank. 4051H, which is a 4 foot groundwater separation, requesting an offset to the 3 foot offset. And then 4051I, which is request that a perk test being used, excuse me, use of an alternate to the perk test using the sieve analysis due to the water on the property. And then local variances, regulation 27, the fill requirement, so that requires no portion of the fill within 10 foot, so variance requested for a retaining wall within 2 foot of the property line. And then regulation 29, which is a 2-compartment tank and outlet filter, which requires 2-compartment tank. And so due to the lack of availability of variance to allow a single compartment septic tank.
I have a point of clarification. On the septic tank, are they proposing a monolithic tank?
There's a question for you.
It's not proposed as monolithic. It's proposed as two-piece with the bituminous seal.
Okay, is there a problem getting one with the tank in as opposed to,
Yeah, the weight of the tank, there's not a lot of access around the left-hand side of the building.
Okay.
Not enough room. Well, the motion was made.
Any other butter?
No,
Motion was made, I second.
I'm a town resident though.
No, it was a question, just wondering. Okay, we have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Quick question, do you worry about the integrity of the cellar wall with the septic tank?
Now, as long as we're at least 5 feet off, the excavation shouldn't affect it.
All right, thanks. So you do 8 Edsel Road as well?
Nope.
Okay. Who's here for 8 Edsel Road? The only ones I have here are 370 Harwood, 7 Christina.
7 and 8.
Which we just did, and 8 Etzel.
Yeah,
8 Slaughter Road.
you good to go home?
All right.
Aye.
So who's here for 8 Edsel? No. Do we have a butter, State Edsel? Introduce yourself. This goes to Shelley. Sorry, folks.
You're recusing yourself from stuff. Do you want a separate plan?
For now. Sure. Do you want? Sure.
Okay, for the record, my name is Jeff Hannaford, representing the applicant at number 8 Edsel Road for an upgrade to a failed septic system. The soil testing was done March 3rd, and we had water tables at 36 to 40 inches in 3 different test holes. This is on the corner of Edsel Road. It's kind of a pie-shaped lot. We have limited area in the rear of the property. Due to the water table depth, we could not perform a perk test, so we did take a soil sample and had a sieve analysis done. Based on the sieve analysis, the system is designed for a 30-minute an inch perk rate. What we opted to go with here is a Presby Enviroseptic type leach field. We do need a pump chamber due to the water table, and we're also adding a new two-compartment, 1,500-gallon septic tank as well. The property slopes down gradually from the back rear corner to the street. There is about a 4-foot difference in elevation from front to back, 4 to 5 feet, depending on which side of the lot. Along the left side of the
Can I see a
lot.
map? You're in a butter, right?
I have a extra.
I can look on the, you know, but.
Along the left side of the lot, where the leaching field is located, there is an existing retaining wall. The lot to that side sits up quite a bit higher in elevation, so that is a high retaining wall. We're on the low side. As you can see, that retaining wall continues onto the abutting lot to the right. So,
How tall is the retaining wall?
oh, it must be 6 or 8 feet.
Wow, that high?
Yeah. Yep, it's very high, poured concrete wall. So because of that existence, what we tried to do was push the system back in the corner towards that, because we knew we'd be in a fill situation. So that's main reason for the variances and for being here tonight. That retaining wall property line, we're proposing to be 8 feet as opposed to 10 feet as required by Title V. The other property line to the abutter to the right, we are maintaining the 10 feet as required. And because we are painted into that corner in the back, by the time we measure our offset to the dwelling, we're at 17.5 feet. So we are seeking a variance to 17 feet to give us a little bit of play there. And with the Presby Enviroseptic, we are allowed to design at a 2-foot offset to water table. That's in the DEP approval letter. So that will minimize the filling. One of the other variances is, as I mentioned earlier, for the sieve analysis in lieu of the perk test. And as far as local regulations, we are seeking a variance to the set of fill to property line from 10 feet down to 1 foot. And it's 1 foot because that retaining wall is a foot off the property line, so we're just filling right up against that wall. So with that, I think we've done just about everything we could to minimize the impact. The 2-foot offset to water table puts us in a situation where there will be, at worst case scenario, about 2 feet of fill above existing grade.
Okay, so I've got Jim's notes here. So this is an existing building, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, it's an existing 3-bedroom.
The system, and you're not upgrading it, it's been 3-bedroom, you're keeping it 3-bedroom, right?
Exactly.
The system at the site is also in failure and is equally restrictive conditions. He's referring to the Christina Drive. The design of a replacement system in full compliance with Title V and your regulations was not possible. The proposed design requires a number of local upgrade approvals, Title V, and variances to the Littleton Board of Health. I don't have a problem with the request. The system appears to fit on the site with minimal effect on the abutters, and the area is served by town water. I'm recommending the existing septic tank be replaced as a condition of approval.
Right, that we're proposing the 1,500-gallon
So you will
two-compartment.
replace that.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit more about the retaining wall on this side. So this is along this wall here, and I assume you're on that side, or? Nope.
I'm diagonally across the street.
Okay. So that goes from what height to what? You said it's about 6 feet high?
I'd say, yeah, as you move to your right there,
Into
going
the
in this
lot.
direction,
Yep.
yes, it gets higher, and it's over my head height.
Okay.
Yep.
So I do believe you need a building permit to roll in for that, right?
Yeah, it's a
Up there.
pre-existing wall, I don't know.
Oh, it's already
what
there.
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Never mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be constructing that now.
Yeah. Do you have any questions, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
You're using the Presby system,
Correct.
okay, to go 2 foot over the water table.
Correct.
Okay. I believe that a stone and pipe system would, you could have 6 inches. The Presby system is a foot, so I'm just wondering why you're not looking at a stone and pipe system that could possibly get you 2.5 feet, well, because it wouldn't, I understand why, because it wouldn't pass the 2 foot that the state gives.
Right.
Okay. Okay, the square footage that you have with the Presby system, how does that relate to the stone pipe system?
It's a 40% reduction.
So we have a big reduction here, so in your letter, when you say you need all the square footage, as far as the state giving credit, you know, they, with some of these upgrade systems, they allow them to go with a much higher loading rate. So we're winding up with again, tell me how much, this is 40% less
40% less than a conventional.
conventional.
The area of the Presby system, and it's able to handle the same load rate, right, with that reduction?
Well,
Is that-
Right, it's,
That's what the state says. Okay. Okay, and perk rate 30 minutes per inch is what you're basing it on?
based on the SIB analysis, which we think is conservative.
Okay. Okay, so, what's basically the loading rate? 0.33?
0.33 gallons per square foot.
Okay. Now, I personally don't have a problem with granting any of the variances. Can I ask one other question? Is this failure found out during a Title V?
No,
No, it was just a...
yeah, it's not for the sale, it
Okay.
was an outright failure.
Okay.
Yep.
Board members have any questions?
It, the retaining wall, so it looks like it's poured concrete,
That's
for
all
most
you
of
did.
it, but then is that,
And it
the
goes
drawing
to us.
indicate like stone?
Yeah, it goes
And
to
it's
us.
all existing? Even the stone is
Yep.
existing already? Okay. And it's basically right on the property line?
Right, it's very, very close, within a foot.
No other questions?
Gino?
Yeah, no question, but
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. You're asking for 5 variances, am I correct?
Correct.
Reduction, distance from 10 feet to 8 feet. Reduction setback distance for 20 feet from cellar to soil absorption to 17 feet, am I correct?
Correct.
Reduction for 4-foot separation from bottom soil absorption system and high groundwater elevation from 4 feet to 2 feet.
Correct.
Perk test required in each area, seals analysis performed due to water table interference. Then you
And
have,
those are DP variances.
right, Littleton Board of Health regulation, right? The
Next
27,
ones.
to fill the 10 feet property line required for 1 foot.
Correct.
That was a motion, right?
Yeah, that's the
Do I
motion.
have a second?
Second problem?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Good luck to you.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
So we have a little bit of an issue here where I see a bunch of stuff in here that is not on the
Agenda.
agenda. So Norse Environmental, somebody from Norse? No?
That was the discussion.
Oh, you're Norse, okay.
well, not environmental, what site?
Design.
Sorry, Norse Design Services, sorry.
That's 8 Edsel. That was what we just
Yeah,
discussed.
sorry, never mind.
Okay.
Okay,
You don't have lot 12 Chestnut.
no, sorry.
Thank you.
You can say if you want.
Next, 370 Harwood.
Oh, boy.
Gonna come on, Richard?
How's everybody doing? Thanks for coming.
We had to be here anyhow, Richard, thank you.
Welcome aboard, Jim.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I can hear one.
So we've done a little homework since last meeting, and as we stated, we're going to shut down the compost operation. Can I have this for a minute? And just to
No. Get one after, okay?
report to the concerned abutters. Vin Mueller, who was here last time and who was running the compost operation on sort of a land lease basis with Mr. Halloran, did go to DEP, did ask them the questions. He talked to a guy named Mike Penny, and essentially DEP has some technical assistance, which you asked us to pursue. They won't give you technical assistance if you're shutting down an operation. They'll only give you technical assistance if you're proceeding to go with the operation. But in any event, I asked Vin Mueller to put together a shutdown timetable and program for your benefit, and to send it to Mike Penny and to the DEP to see if they would at least comment on it, which they have not done, even though we asked them to.
They required you to have a plan too, right?
No.
That's what he told me when I met with him.
He said, whatever this letter says, is he contacted the technical assistance hotline. The representative suggested to file an application for assistance in regard to odor and toxic control. I was told by them that due to the fact we don't accept food waste or other biosolids, and we do not expect to expand the operation, we may not qualify for assistance. We're going to continue to provide odor control measures. The bottom line to all of this, however, is that they are shutting down the operation. He's not taking any more onto the site. Whatever is there, they're just going to finish composting so it will get off the site completely, because leaving it and doing nothing is worse than turning it and getting it to finish whatever process it's going through. However, he says they're going to limit their hours from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, occasional Saturdays if they get behind due to inclement weather, but they expect everything to be cured in piles at the end of the composting process by the end of August of this year.
So what's your drop-dead date when you've got everything out of there?
You know, when I talked to him verbally, he said drop-dead date is probably a year from August, but the composting will stop completely, and there'll be no more processing and no more turning after August.
A year from August is too long. I mean, if
I
the
mean, as far
composting
as
is done.
the composting will be broken down by the end of August, but as far as getting it off the property, I mean, there's going to be quite a bit of it there.
And what about the berm?
The berm is being tested right now.
We don't have any plans to remove the berm. We don't have any need to remove the berm. We're going.
That's not what DEP's telling me. You better get your story straight with DEP, because what they told me was that berm has to be moved within the 100, how far, what's the distance? 150.
feet.
Yeah, but if I'm
Within the
starting
distance of the well.
composting-
Only if he's composting. He's not
Yeah,
going
I'm
to
not going to
compost
be
there anymore.
composting there.
Well, you were supposed to have that berm out of there within 21 days of the day we visited.
No, they didn't say within 21 days.
Well, I'm going to check with Mike Penny, because what you're telling me
Feel
isn't
free to
adding up with
call
what
me.
DEP told me.
I'll check with
That
Mike
berm's
Penny,
going.
too. Mike,
If
there's
we have to
no,
water the berm to go, it's going to go. So
that
we're
berm is
getting-
not creating any nuisance and has not been creating a nuisance. If it's creating a nuisance,
It's part of
I,
the composting operation.
no,
It has
it's a
been, and DEP is
barrier
going to tell
for
you to have to move
privacy.
it within, outside the distance from the wells as well, because I met with them.
Yeah.
When did you meet with DEP?
It's Jim right here. When did I meet with him?
It was-
Early
it was
this
me.
month?
I was
Was
there,
it
yeah.
since the last meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to have a plan to them by Friday, was what I discussed with DEP.
This letter went to them, I'm told, by Vinnie Mueller on June 6th, and it came to you on
Okay.
Thursday.
Well, we're going to put you on the agenda for the next meeting, and I'll get the story straight from DEP, because
I'll
what you're
also-
telling me is not what DEP told me.
Oh, this is the letter that Vin
I
Mueller
don't care what
delivered to
Vinnie
me.
says, I care what DEP
Yeah.
says. So a year from August, I'm telling you, is too long.
Oh.
And I do think it's more of a DEP issue, but DEP told me that that burn had to be moved because it was within the distance of the well.
It's made of compost material.
We're testing it to see if that's what it made of. It's made of.
Of course it's made of-
I don't know what it's made of.
You know what it's made of, you made it up without a
It's the
compost, we made you
tailings,
keep it there when...
It's, debris from my wood business being sawdust and brick and stuff.
No, Richard, you know we told you to keep it there because you had grass clippings and we didn't want you to disturb it. So there's, you put
Yeah, but
some,
if there was grass
you put some
clippings there-
sawdust and stuff on top of there, but that was primarily made of compost.
We haven't-
And I hope you're gonna be a little bit more honest with that if you're gonna deal with the board and tell us it's not compost, because we know it's compost. It's historically always been compost. So maybe we need to postpone this, but I'm telling you, from my perspective, a year from August is too long. And I need to rectify with what you're telling me, with what DEP is telling me, because what you're telling me does not match what DEP is telling me.
Well, I'll get you a drop-dead date on having everything out of there, which will be sooner than a year from August.
Okay.
And I also directly will contact Mike Penny. I was relying on Vin Mueller's letter. I didn't contact them directly.
I'll contact
about-
Mike as well, so why
about
don't we
the,
get you on the agenda for the next meeting to
that's fine.
discuss this burn, because that's not what Mike told me. What
That's
Mike
fine.
told me is this is part of the composting operation. It was made primarily of compost. We actually told you to keep it there, make it out of compost, And DEP told me it was going to be, what's the distance from the well?
250.
Had to be 250 feet. So our premise was if you're going to move it, you might as well get it out of there, because I don't think you want it running down the middle of your property line.
Even the operation until it's everything taken off the property has to be 250
You know.
feet from my well.
On top of which, the last time I was there, Vinnie cut into that to take the compost out pretty heavily. So it's not really going to go over well with the board very well if you're going to tell us that berm's not made out of compost.
Cut into what, the berm?
Yes, against what we
Are
told
we
them to
talking
do.
about the entire ring of the property?
At the end of it, going towards Richard Way, there was probably about 50 feet where he cut that berm in half, deep. I mean, it looked like one of those Swiss mountains with a hangover, with the top hanging over. So to tell us it's not compost, when he harvested composting material out of there, really isn't going to fly too well. So I think you need to check with Mike Penny, I need to check with Mike Penny, and we need to come back, but I would like a drop dead date. There's no more stuff going in, that's except for dirt, right? You still need to bring some dirt in. Well,
Yeah, dirt's allowable. I mean,
Dirt's
I
allowable.
can't bring dirt onto my property, I mean, and then, you know, the
there'll be no more leaves.
No, there's no more.
Saturday hours are out.
Saturday are out.
Wait, for real this time? Because
I'm
we,
very sorry about this Saturday, there was a new operator, and it was
No.
just miscommunication.
but that, there's
And I
been several
put a
times
stop
we've had
to it.
miscommunication, Richard. So if we can, no Saturdays, we would like a drop dead date, and we've got to clarify this burn issue with DEP, because that, what you're telling me isn't what he told us. I will say, at least for the neighbors, it probably is not a nuisance, the burn. We probably don't have the authority, but I did talk to DEP in the extent, and they were basically saying it is part of the compost operation. It has to be, you're still composting as we speak, and you're already within 250 feet. So what they told me was they're going to make you move the burn, which I assume means you're going to take it out of there, because you move it 250 feet, it's going right down the middle of your property. So, did you talk to Mike? Because he was going to call you, or his boss was.
I did talk to Mike. Yeah, and I told him I was gonna phase out the leaves, and I told him, you know, exactly what I was gonna do there, but he didn't say anything about moving the berm.
Well, you already had a letter that you were going to have because I saw the letter, it was before our last meeting, where they basically, you had to bring a surveyor in and figure out the line with the distance from the well.
That could be my mistake, because we brought he tried to get 2 engineers and could not. I hired an engineer that I know, and he quoted him such astronomical numbers that I said, if we're stopping the composting operation, the 250 distance from the well might be moot. I did not realize that the berm
So-
had materials that were bothersome to you.
So the problem is
I will double
that you're
back
not
on
immediately
that.
stopping the composting operation.
We can't really
Probably-
stop it immediately, because
Exactly.
until
But
we
you
try in the
can't
future.
move it.
What DEP told me was that as long as it is going on, they were going to require you to abide by those 250-foot setbacks.
Yeah, but that would
So
be kind of
what-
impossible to finish processing the material and then move the berm back, you know what I mean?
It's
One
gonna
has to
be
go
worse.
before the other.
It's going to be worse pollutants and worse odor if you try moving that 250 feet instead of just
DP is going to
finishing and
make you
getting
move
it off.
that.
Well,
Unless you
we'll
can
ask Mike
magically make
Penny
all
that.
this stuff compost tomorrow, you're running a composting operation and you're in violation of the setbacks from the wells, and DEP told me they're going to make you move it. Now, my suggestion is, as long as you're moving it, you might as well get it out of there. That's what the neighbors want, and
Yeah, I mean, you can't, yeah, one thing at a time.
that
I'm-
extends it. No, unfortunately, you can't do one thing at a time. It's part and parcel of the whole operation. So we need a plan that covers all of this. Now, if there's a sequence to this, please tell us what that will be at the next
I'm gonna
meeting.
check with Mike Penny, because it's my understanding that moving the pile between now and August is going to create a worse odor nuisance than leaving it where it is and shutting it down.
Right.
which
Have
is
you
what
seen
our
this from the
proposal
view of that
is.
burn from people's backyards?
I'm not talking about the berm, I'm talking about the
Yeah, but that
compost
berm's
pile.
on my yard,
The
though.
view of the berm from their backyards, unfortunately, the view is not something they can control. If it's compost and if it's a violation, it is something
It is compost, and
that
it
they
is in
can
violation
control.
per my discussion
And I
with
will
DEP.
check on that.
So, and I
So-
will double check with him as well.
Can either we get actual written communications from DEP regarding this, or someone from DEP show up to this meeting? Because we've had 2 meetings now where I'm kind of confused
Have it in
about what
email.
DEP, then I'd like to see that. I mean, I don't doubt what Brad's saying.
I'll
I
get
just-
written clarification
Yeah,
from Mike.
I think that's what we
But where I
need,
left
yeah.
this with Mike and his boss, when we went out there to meet with them, was that this was part of the operation. It most certainly is compost. I'm really not going to entertain any argument to the contrary, Richard. I'm sorry. I've seen it. We have a history of us telling you not to disturb the compost because there are grass clippings in there. I suspect there may be some odors in moving that, but I think the neighbor's willing to put up with that to be done with it, and I don't think it matters anyhow, because DEP is going to make you abide by that 250-foot setback from the wells, is what they told me. So unless they've changed their minds, that berm has got to be part of this plan.
I'll contact Mike Penny myself. I'll get something either in writing from Mike Penny, or I'll write to him a letter that says if any of this is
No, I'll
inaccurate.
get something in writing from Mike.
Okay.
That clarifies their intention. But I think you do have a letter that basically says you were supposed to, and I understand the delays. Did you explain the delays to DEP?
I didn't speak to DEP at all.
But
Mr.
you,
Mueller did.
but you did see the letter where DEP
did.
basically told you within a certain date, which I think is passed, you needed to basically delineate that and move the berm.
They didn't say about moving the berm, they said about having a plan on as far as, moving forward on
But
the
if
site.
they told you you're going to have to move the berm, we stood there on the berm and talked to him. He's going to make you, if you were continuing this operation, DEP is going to make you
And
move
that's the
that.
misunderstanding.
Yeah, I'm not continuing the
letter said if the
composting.
operation was continuing, and it's not continuing.
It is
it's shutting
continuing.
down.
You've just told us a year, which
Well,
is too long.
would
but
you
it-
like
I
them
won't
to
take
do
it.
nothing and walk away and
I
do
hear
nothing?
it every single day. I hear it every
Excuse me,
single
miss.
day.
Yeah,
One at a time, Ann.
Yeah. I think there might be some issues that they walk away. No, we want you to be responsible and
shut
take
down.
care of it, but you've got to realize that as long as you're running it, it's a continuing operation, and DEP is not going to ignore the well
We'll
setbacks.
speak to Mike Penny about his recommendation for that, because,
It's not a recommendation, it's a requirement.
or his requirement for that, because it seems to me we're into the end of June. If he moves the berms between July and August, I think you're going to create more of a problem than if you just turn them every other week until the end of August when it gets out of there completely.
But we're willing to give you time to let it
That's what I think
finish,
is the
but the
problem.
burn is part of the
Well,
composting
I'll speak to him
operation.
about the berm. His understanding was it was if the composting was continuing, the berm was a problem.
But the
I didn't
composting
speak to
is
Mike Penny.
continuing. That's what you're not getting, Sherry. Okay, when you tell us to drop dead dates in August, and you're turning piles, and you're mixing the dirt, and you're moving this, that compost operation is continuing.
The alternative is to do nothing.
No, the alternative is to continue the compost operation, include the burn in the phase-out plan, and get it all out of there.
Yeah, I guess I don't see an alternative, right? I mean, let's
That's,
get this done, and then as part of the plan, include getting rid of that berm. I mean, that's what we
now,
discussed.
this board frankly isn't going to have authority over that burn.
Right.
But DEP does,
Right.
and what
we
they're
will do
saying
what
is that
DEP
250
requires on the
setback.
berm. Yeah.
Mr.
Do
Chairman,
what
may I say
DEP
something?
Sure,
requires
Gino.
on the berm.
Why don't we just postpone this meeting for the next meeting, and then you have all the facts, we have all the
Yep.
facts, so we won't upset the neighbors and we won't upset Ricky too, okay? All right?
Well,
So
well, and frankly,
we're trying
I
to
think
work-
we're upsetting
trying
the
to work
neighbors.
together. We're trying to work
Gino,
together.
we're upsetting the neighbors.
Well, I think what we need to clarify here,
Because
Gino,
we're not
is...
getting the information
What we
we
need
were
to do
told
is...
we were going to get.
Right. We need to
We got-
clarify what the situation is.
Right.
We need to
Next
follow up
meeting.
with Mike Penny.
Yeah, right.
He told me, you haven't spoken to him, I have, I met with him for 2 hours, and I know what he told me, so unless he's changed his mind, but you need to understand, Sherry, the compost operation is continuing all summer until that drop dead day. And DEP is going to require you to meet their requirements, which haven't been met in regards to the wells. And that means the burn, and the burn most certainly is compost. I mean, Vinnie took half of it away. Yes.
Okay, two questions. One, I just want to clarify and make sure that when we're talking about moving the berm, we're not talking about turning it into compost that you're going to continue to process, correct?
No, that berm's been there for at least 3 or 4 years, and it's not, no.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that that doesn't become an active compost thing.
There's no intention.
Richard, what are you saying? That
Because
it's already
we're told that
composted?
you're not bringing anything else on to the site, but I want to make sure that because you've been cutting away from that berm and using it to compost, that you're not going to be continuing to cut into that berm.
Well, if
I know, they're not
we first we have to
into the berm now.
determine, if they're going to move, if they're going to get rid of it, they're going to have to cut
Yeah.
into it.
And through
But
the
they're not
chair,
going to turn it.
But in the meantime, are they going to get rid of it as compost? Are they going to try and continue to process it so that it can be moved
Richard,
someplace to be sold?
if you have to remove the burn, does that need to continue to be composted, or do you?
No,
think
it'll
it's
get
done?
put in a trailer and be hauled away. It'll be
Okay,
gone,
that-
it'll be
and-
gone.
And then my second concern is that this is the third meeting I've been at now, and I feel like there are things that have been decided and discussed and asked of Mr. Halloran each time. At no point have we seen any of his agreements in writing, and I feel like every time we come back, things, as Mr. Davis has been saying, nothing has been done, things have not been, and then there seems to kind of be this memory loss about what has been talked about. I personally would like to see something in writing that's not from Vinnie, but is from the landlord, the landowner.
Well, it's either a letter from the landowner that I'm happy with either one, or it'll be something from this board saying this is what will happen.
But Vinnie said a third
But we need to
party.
clarify.
I feel like we're, the abutters and
Vinnie holds the
landowners.
permit?
Right, but as far as what you're asking though is not for Vinnie to comply, but for Mr. Halloran to comply.
Actually,
So-
I'm not sure that's true, because
Okay.
one, Vinnie has the permit and Vinnie runs the operation. So if this came from the board, I think it would be directed to Vinnie with a CC to Mr. Halloran, because Vinnie actually is the permitted composter in there, not Richard.
Okay.
So I'm actually not sure why you didn't stick him with this, but that's your choice. So, are there any other
Because I'm the one
questions?
who has to live there, you know what I mean? I'd
Yeah.
rather deal
No, I know, I
with people
understand.
directly now than down the road.
But he's
you know?
he's the one under DEP, they wrote to you and him, but Vinnie's the licensed composter, the permitted composter. I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted, no, you said
Yes.
it, thank you.
I completely agree with Kate. I mean, this is 3 years in the making. We finally make progress, and it's still like we were supposed to have a log to compare to the trends. I never saw a log to compare to the trends. We were supposed to, 21 days, we were supposed to have a surveyor come in and do the work, and it hasn't happened, so.
Okay,
if
so the
I-
log, we didn't get the trends, but they basically said they'd shut down, so there was no sense in pursuing that. DEP has a 21 days, I'm not sure with that. You've had some trouble getting a surveyor. They'll usually grant you an extension for reasonable cause, for a reasonable amount of time. It sounds like you found one. The question here is, it doesn't sound like DEP's made their requirements as far as what happens to that burn clear, so we need to clarify that. If we do not get a letter that's satisfactory to the board, I suspect we will write an order to some effect, as will DEP, that say this is how it's going to go.
But if we keep having these meetings and, should we be looking to get a lawyer to protect ourselves? Or, we just haven't seen the progress going through the correct channels.
That's your choice. I can't, we're working towards it. I'm pleased with the progress. I wish it were going a little bit more smoothly and all the parties were communicating a little bit. From my perspective, we're moving forward. Nobody said they're backing out. There's a question on the berm and the DEP regulations, which I'd hope we would have settled by now. I'm sorry we haven't, but we haven't. But I can't tell you they should get a lawyer or not. That's up to you guys.
No, I understand, and I know you guys have been trying and putting in the effort. I just want to make sure that we're all putting in the same effort to bring this to conclusion. And because deliverables keep getting missed, I feel like we're not as committed to moving this through as maybe us.
Yeah.
Is there any sense in having these talks without Vinnie here, since he's the one that is the operator and is sort of the fulcrum of this?
We don't permit him. DEP does. He has to be part of the DEP discussions. Whatever we say will carry. So, we have a letter from Vinnie.
He asked me if he needed to come tonight, and I told him that
And-
I thought we could handle
And
this.
he was here last time and
And he'll do whatever.
participated through Sherry. So,
He'll do
he's got his
whatever he
attorney.
said.
So, did you have a question?
I just wanted to follow up on the question about deliverables. At the last, this is Jeff Schachter from 6 Richard Way, by the way. At the last meeting, there was a discussion about having a plan in hand,
Yeah.
and that was supposed to be due to the Board of Health on June 10th, as I
Yeah.
recall. Are the board members satisfied with whatever they've received?
No.
So that's what we've been discussing. We
That's-
need to know what's happening with the burn. It needs to be consistent with what DEP has told us. If they've changed their mind, we need to know that. Right now, it's not acceptable. This letter is it. It talks about working on Saturdays. It doesn't have a drop dead date. It's very vague. It doesn't talk about the burn. Other than that, it's a pretty general thing. So I think we're working towards it. We don't have all the information we need. But at this point, nobody's bringing any more leaves or getting material in.
No, there's no leaves right now this time of year.
Right.
They don't come in till Halloween, and I'm not bringing any more leaves, so.
So,
In the soil through August or beyond August?
I plan on doing the soil, during the spring and summer months, and then,
What does doing soil mean?
well, the screening of soil, you take.
so that's what we need to clarify with the drop dead date. My understanding, as long as he's still getting rid of the organic material there, he'll be bringing soil in to mix with it.
Excuse me,
no,
Mr.
it's-
Chair, I think there's a miscommunication.
Yeah.
They're asking if he's bringing soil into the compost pile to do the composting process. He's answering that he also does screened loam on site, and that has nothing to do with the composting process.
Okay, yeah, we have nothing to do with the
He's
screen loan.
answering about the screened loam.
Okay, but you did bring in soil to mix with the compost, right?
Excuse me?
You bring in soil to mix with the compost, right? Or Vinnie does?
He does, yeah, but I mean, I don't see where they're mixing that soil with the compost, you follow me? They got
That's
like
what you
straight
told me you did,
compost.
so, okay.
I mean,
So the screen bloom is a different issue.
yeah.
What is that?
Dirt.
What permit is that? Like,
It's not through DEP or
grind
anybody.
dirt and-
I don't believe there is a permit for that. You don't have a
No,
permit for that.
I believe I do have one, yeah. I had to go before the town about an earth removal permit.
But you're not
And
taking
then-
soil out.
Well, that's the thing, I wasn't taking it out, so I actually didn't have to get the removal permit. So,
So he basically brings topsoil from a site where it's been taken away, he screens it and sells the topsoil. That's another part of the operation, just like the wood. It's separate from the compost.
yeah, the leaf composting is where the odor came from. So once the leaves are broken down and then they're removed, you're not gonna have any problem with the odor, you know what I mean? Once they're broken down over the next 3 months, 4 months max, I mean, even if the compost is sitting there, it's not gonna be giving off an odor, you know what I mean? If you wanna buy the place from me, you can buy it and then, do whatever you want with it, but I mean, as far as the piles look, it's a free country and I have a right to have piles of material in my yard, you know?
You're not
I've been living-
250 feet from my well.
So,
That's-
so Richard, that's what we need to clarify with DEP. There's no sense in getting into it.
I'm not
DEP is
getting
gonna
into it,
need to
no.
clarify what you need to do with that berm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems so black and white. I don't know why we're still talking about it.
Because it's not our decision, so we're gonna wait to hear from DEP and then we'll have it and it may be something you have to take up with DEP, but we do need clarification to move forward. So what I would like to see, Sherry, next time is, one, the Saturday's taken out of here. I would like to see a drop dead date, when this can be expected to be done. Kind of a fuller description of the activities that will take place in between now and then. And we do have to clarify the burn and the DEP issue, which we'll both speak to Mike.
Got it.
And I'll ask for Mike for something in writing if I don't already have it someplace.
So, and to clarify, when we say we want a drop dead date, not just when the composting process is done, but when the piles are out.
When everything you've got on there relative to the compost that DEP says you gotta get out of there is gone. And we understand if it's weather dependent, you can shoot for an outside date,
Yeah.
we're gonna look for a date
But
where.
realistically, once that compost is broken down over the summer here, it's not gonna give off an odor over the fall or the winter, you know what I mean?
That's not the point.
But that's not what we're asking. It doesn't, I don't think.
I understand that's not what you're asking,
No,
but
we understand.
we will get a better
I think
answer for that
the
question.
odors, I suspect, are declining now, right?
This last week, it's been a little better.
Yeah,
It's kind of
because I think you'll start to see them decline over the summer, simply because it's a little drier, most of it's cooked, but that's, irregardless, we need a date where all the composting material, when you think it'll be out of there.
Okay.
I prefer to see before August, because as you said, it's all gonna be composted. Don't you usually get most of it out of there before you bring the leaves in?
Yes and no, it all depends on the markets, of how you can move it and sell it too, you know what I mean? I mean, there's quite a bit of material, and you can't just move it in a couple of days or weeks, because there's a lot of time and labor involved to doing it.
We're not saying a couple days or weeks,
No.
but we're not saying a year either.
No, I understand. I'll speak with Vinnie tomorrow, and we'll be able to come up with a better time frame.
Yep.
One last thing, so just to clarify, will the composting operation, like the turning of it that is scheduled to plant end in August, will that happen 250 feet from the well, or is that going to happen after?
DEP is going to clarify that for us. My understanding, what they told me was as long as compost is still going on, that they're going to require you to comply with the 250 feet. But they need to clarify that.
Excuse me, through the chair, do you happen to know the distance to your well?
It's about 100 feet right
Okay.
now, 108 feet according to Google Maps.
Yeah. We don't have an accurate one, that's why we need it, but we know it's well within 250 feet.
Okay.
Mine is less than
Yeah.
in that. I mean,
Ours is
mine is
Three
Can I just
wells.
have your addresses so I can,
Sure,
Three
nine,
the
Colonial.
engineer look it up? You're 3 Colonial
9 Colonial,
and 9 Colonial.
And Richard,
And
I
I'd
think
say
that
we're-
house you
we're 50
rent
feet
out
from the
has one as
road.
well, right?
Yes,
if that.
Who's the other one?
The house on the property.
His.
Yep.
I drink bottled water though, so.
I don't DEP care, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so guys, this is, I know folks are disappointed, but this is part of the process. This isn't really, nobody's doing anything wrong, there's no ill intent here, it's just, we're working through it, so,
Thank you.
all right?
Is there any hope of actually having a DEP representative at the meeting next time? Is that a request that could be formally made?
Having worked for the state and having 351 towns, probably not, but we'll get a clarity regardless.
Get a letter you
Getting them on the phone is difficult.
No, trying to get hold of them is awesome.
So
It's the
They-
state, it's not the feds.
Well, I mean, being in the office in the central region, they probably get about 85 towns and there's one guy. So,
He's fairly responsive.
he's responsible by email, but
He can't be at every
he's- I suspect he has a life after work, so wants to participate.
Or maybe not, with that many towns. Poor guy.
So,
Thank you all.
great, thank you.
All right,
I'm sorry, any questions, Gino?
Oh, that's right.
No,
Done.
not here.
You want to give me a time certain,
28.
continuing, 7:30, just to...
Oh, when are we gonna meet next?
So 28th is the
The
next
next
meeting.
meeting.
28th of June is the next meeting.
Okay,
I'm sure,
7 o'clock.
Shelley sent out an email to folks.
okay.
Right, thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
What do
I
you
know
want?
you guys are trying. It's just disappointing on this side.
I don't know.
I'm
Jim.
cool with things. Thanks.
You're not on the agenda, what do you want, Peter? Or just cable went out, you had some need?
Missed you. Oh, that's why you come?
Candy, he follows me.
It was candy.
By the way, I get grief for our action. By the way, I should tell the board, so part of the reason I was at DEP, because we had, both of yours, by the way, where DEP called us in and complained, basically. The one where we basically, you had a two-bedroom that we gave you approval, we called it for a two-bedroom, even though the system was only 75% of what it had to be, or whatever it was,
Okay,
the one down by the lake.
yeah.
So, previous board member complained about that, and the one where you had the woman where we built the, I want to say Evergreen, where she basically wanted to put an accessory use apartment, and we gave her a waiver. So-
For her mother, right?
For her mother. So DP basically said we couldn't do that, no new construction unless it meets the septic, so we got nixed on that one. I don't know where she stands in the process, but we were told we can't do that one again. And we were told we were okay with what we did for yours. And I have all the citations and stuff. You probably already knew this, but I have all the citations I'll share with folks at the next board meeting, so.
The question I had was, and I've never heard the question or attachment ever before, and neither has anybody else, where for some reason the secretary said, this is with the existing building. Now, the existing building is not in very good condition, and I'm not going to build some mansion anyways, but regardless of it, I don't understand why that is attached to the existing building. Does it mean I can build a system and then I take down the building, or can I take down?
Well, I think what it
There's
means
some other
is,
variances
we
I
gave you
have to
some
make.
allowances because your system wasn't fully compliant with a two-bedroom system.
It's very close, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, it was close,
Right.
and I think part of the reason we gave it to you, because it was already an existing building and two bedrooms, and we've been kind of stupid to pretend it didn't.
Right.
That's a whole other story if you put in another building, so I think you'd have to come before us if you wanted to rebuild it. Though, I think Tony Presby was gonna go in there.
Well, I spoke to somebody about changing it from the existing system to a Presby.
Right.
The problem with the Presby is from what I can tell, is they have to get inspected every year. I gotta pay $350 every year, and pumping it every year doesn't bother
I think you
me.
just have to pump it every year, don't you?
You have to have inspected every year.
Because I have a Presby and I don't have it subjected, so.
I was told that it has to be
No, it has to be
inspected,
pumped every year.
has to be pumped every year.
3.
And with that, if I did the Presby system, it'd lower everything for the most part. It'd reduce my setbacks from the sides. And it's supposedly less to install, and it actually would almost give me the full, what I need for a two-bedroom system, without the 75% of a two-bedroom
Right.
system.
I think you'd have more, I don't know if you could do 3, but you could probably get 2 in there easy.
Without a deed, well, regardless, I don't care about the deed restriction. I want to build a two-bedroom house.
Right.
And
So my understanding is, because you were pretty close already with the system you
I'd
had.
like a 3, though. Wait a minute, let's go back.
You like the three-bedroom?
I'd take a 3 if I could get a 3.
So here's what you have to
I
do.
don't think the property.
If you're gonna
is
tear it
sustainable.
down, you basically gotta come back before us for the system. If it's not compliant, you gotta come back before us.
Right.
And if a Presby can do
The
3, a
system-
Presby can do 3.
If I do a Presby and I can get a 3-bedroom system designed for it, yahoo.
Yeah.
I put the system in, and then I take down the house. I remodel it, right?
What's that have to do with the Board of Health at that point?
Yeah,
Isn't
that
the
point,
Board of
it's
Health?
not us. You already got the system, we're done with you.
Right, so I can put the system in and then do whatever, and then it's just some setbacks and some other things. Is that right? Is that what it sounds like the way to go? I mean, I don't want to circumvent things. I don't want to tell you I'm doing something that
No,
I'm
no,
not.
but basically, we gave you the allowance because it was already a 2-bedroom and it was silly to pretend it
Yes,
wasn't. If you're
right.
gonna build a whole new house, you gotta come back before us and we gotta look at the system, and you may not get the same allowance then. But if you're gonna do a
Right.
Presby, it sounds like you got plenty of room there. All you gotta do is pump it once a year.
Okay.
It's no inspection or anything like that.
All right, something's not making sense with it. You know, someone tells me one thing, then someone tells me another thing, and
You used to have it inspected every year, but that...
it
The only other thing, and I'm not representing Peter on this, I was just curious about your answer. The other thing I worry about, though, is when you come to, before IRA for a upgrade on a system, if your history says you're a two-bedroom and you have a two-bedroom deed restriction, he's reluctant to give you, and this board's been reluctant to give you 3 bedrooms in the face of the historic two-bedroom deed restriction.
If you keep the same system. If you come with a whole new system,
But if your system requires any variances or waivers, this board has said, then you can have the waivers with a two-bedroom deed restriction.
what we typically do if somebody's got a two-bedroom deed restriction, if they come in and they have basically a system that'll handle 3 bedrooms, and we get an engineer who's gonna say that, I don't think we take exception to that.
All right. See, that's fair, that's common sense.
I mean, if the engineer says it'll cover 3, we'll take 3.
I mean, there's, you know, I sat in the Board of Appeals, which you were on, correct? I listened to somebody say something about having a building that is 2 feet off the lot line. They want to take it, move it over 4 feet over and connect it to the house. Well, it's still off the lot line 4 feet instead of 2, but they won't allow it because then once you connect it and it's now non-conforming, that's going to make it worse. But they're going to build a new garage and make it look prettier. But who's that jackass?
It's not jackass.
Yeah, we're on TV, so.
Is it really?
Yes. Anyway, you got your answer from us.
Yeah, he's not on the board anymore,
All right,
but I still stand by what I said.
we'll save that discussion but for the pub.
Dang, how come it's not on TV?
So, are you all set?
Can I just ask you,
Sure.
since you raised it on 3 Evergreen, she's starting construction, is her approval solid?
We haven't reneged it, DP just told us we weren't supposed to do it.
Okay.
So if she started construction, I think it's kind of too late for us to do that. But we can't do it again. The board's done others before. I told Peter about it. He goes, oh yeah, we had, kid was in an accident, handicapped, and we're apparently not allowed to do that. What I will say is, the governor has a whole reg reform process going on, and they encouraged us. They understood we put other measures in place to control for it. They understood why we did it. They said, well, sorry, the regs don't allow it, but they're reforming those regs, so if we wanted to write in, either as individuals or as a board, suggest some flexibility, we can do that. And I did ask them for the requirements, because I never trust them when they just tell you you can't do something. So he did send it to me, which I'll share with him.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. All right, now we get the exciting stuff on the road in minutes and things like that. All right, so,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
all right, thanks.
Wasn't kidding.
All right, so we have the minutes of May 24th.
Yeah, I read it. Anybody else read it? What is it, 4 or 5 pages?
Gina, you sign this? Is that yours?
Yeah.
You and your signatures.
John, you probably want to skip these two for now.
Is that for, can I ask a question though, is that for component replacements or? Only because Shelley said something interesting to me today when I talked to her on the phone. She had a question about.
Richard.
What's it say, John?
This looks like...
Replace D-box, use existing tank.
Yeah,
replace
this is
D-box, yeah.
using...
That's components?
Yeah.
You got that?
Yeah. Oh, no, give it to me.
I thought you told me
You
you
got
signed it.
more. Oh, you got more. Oh, I didn't know that.
Isn't that you?
Huh?
Is that you?
I signed 2 of them. I give it to you, and I don't know.
There you go.
I sign them all?
I think there was an easier way to do this, guys.
This one here, I didn't see. I give it to you then.
Republic said...
We're not union.
We got this 2 or 3. How many do we have? My God.
We did have a dog bite, by the way, so one of the things I signed was a bill for the euthanasia and for the,
And it was a dog fight?
yeah, there's a letter someplace to this effect, so,
And this happened.
all right.
So, are we reviewing minutes too?
Yep, this-
Okay. The only question I had about the minutes was, and I guess the minutes are what the minutes, I didn't take notes during it, but I thought there was discussion once Vinnie said he was going to cease operations, that there would be removal of the berm. But it's not captured in the minutes, and
I don't think Vinnie, I don't recall him committing to that, because
Okay.
we left off the meeting with,
Okay.
I remember Richard said something about the highlight, that, oh, well, it blocks the headlights, and I asked the neighbors whether they preferred the headlights to the berm, and they all said the headlights, so.
Right, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, those are the only, that's the only questions I had
All
on
right.
the minutes.
Gino, you okay with the minutes?
I made a motion to accept the minutes. Anybody read it?
I
Yep.
read it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You weren't here, so you basically abstained. All right. Motion to adjourn, or any other business, board me? The only other business I will tell you is there was yet another site visit out to Taylor Street. So this is a building over by the depot that Mr. Ernesti owns. You've probably been by it. It's got a lot of stuff. It was condemned by the board a number of years ago. We at one point voted to have it demolished, but the town didn't want to take the risk that we wouldn't be able to recover the money from that. So I found a program through the state. It's called the Abandoned Property Initiative, where essentially the state takes it into receivership. They basically hire a contractor, comes in, brings it up to code. The owner then has the opportunity to repay the contractor, or it goes up on the auction block, so there's no risk. So we're in process there. It originally went to court, and it wasn't clear who the owner of record was. It turned out to be Mr. Ernesti. Enough time had passed that they just did another site visit and confirmed yet again that it does not meet code, so the AG, assistant AG, is basically bringing it back to court. So that's moving forward slowly, but it's moving forward. Motion to adjourn? Or any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, so we have to wait for Peter Yap to come next time, next
Yep.
week,
Yep.
which it would be 2 weeks from now.